For me, I'm so, I think there's a lot of honor in kind of doing the same thing, but doing it well over and over. And I don't think that's a huge focus in this country. We're all about trying to grow things to their biggest possibilities. I like what we have here. You know, would I like it to be slightly larger? You know, sometimes the dining room feels a little small.
Right.
Yeah, that would be great. But do I see us leaving this spot? I don't think so. You know, ultimately I want to have a busy restaurant that provides good jobs for, you know, good people, and they can live their lives. I just want to, you know, that's my long-term goal, is to make a decent living and have my colleagues and coworkers make a decent living with me, and we do good work.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for world domination. That's not my thing.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest chef, owner of HiFi Burritos, Brett Wintersteen. My man Brett, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah,
for the most part.
So I'm here because I spoke to not your neighbor, but somebody in your community who was on the show. I asked him who I should speak to, and he said you got to go talk to Brett down at HiFi Burritos. That was Emmett from Teetotaler. So that's why I'm here. I'm here because you're doing great things as well. I can't wait to dive into who you are and what you're all about. Real quick, just paint the big picture. What is HiFi Burritos today?
So HiFi Burritos is, you know, our version of a fast casual restaurant. You know, we don't shy away from fast food. We're your local burrito joint.
Got it.
That's kind of what we're doing. We're just trying to put good food in bellies and make people happy.
So you have your fast casual brick and mortar. You're also doing catering out of the space.
Yep.
So you're doing about 10% catering?
I'd say about 10% of our business is catering. We also do pop-ups.
Okay.
A lot of them have happened at North Country Cider, North Country Hard Cider in Dover. But yeah, most of our business comes out of the brick and mortar. This is our, you know, where we're sitting is our bread and butter, so to speak.
Got it. And what is your gross today? Like, give us a sense of numbers.
So we're on pace to do about $1 million in
Nice.
sales, and that's kind of where our goal was going into this year. So we're on track.
Nice. Congratulations, dude.
Yeah.
That's huge with one location. And where are you at in terms of like prime cost, profit, things like that?
So I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm not a huge numbers guy, so it's not my wheelhouse speaking about it in an educated sense. You
Right.
know, I just go in every day as hard as I can and see where we're gonna get to at the end of the day.
Heard that.
So, you know, as far as profitability goes, I would say we're in the range of like 10%.
Okay.
But a lot of that goes to different areas, you know, like paying off our debts and
Right.
stuff like that. So it does get chewed up quickly.
What kind of debt did you start with here, if you don't mind me asking?
So when we moved to this location to get this space built out, we took on about $100,000 in
Okay.
debt, which isn't a lot in, you know, the restaurant world as
Not
far
at
as
all.
like, you know.
Is that everything to get started? Like the hardware you needed, all that stuff?
Yeah, to get this space like operational.
That's pretty awesome.
We were fortunate in the sense that we already had our kitchen space built out.
Okay.
And we have a unique situation where our kitchen is off-site. We have like a commissary kitchen where we make all the food. We bring it here, and then this is, you know, scoop and serve style. It's reheated here. The staff prepares it for the, you know, the public to consume and order.
Awesome.
But yeah, the cookery aspect happens in our kitchen offsite, which is more of the expensive stuff.
So now that we have an idea of where you're at, I can't wait to get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
So, you know, my day-to-day, I just like to think about this. I feel like it comes from the military, but it's when you do something to do it with intent. And every day you just kind of step into what you're doing and doing it with a lot of, you know, just purpose, you know, whatever the motivation behind that purpose is, you know, you take your time and think about it. And, you know, I'm a very cautious person. I don't like to take leaps and risks. I'm a pretty risk averse guy, so when I do stuff, I try to do it with as much intent as possible in order to make it succeed. So
I love that. When did you? How long ago were you in the military?
I was never in the military.
Oh, okay.
I just pulled that quote from like a military. You know, I think it's from the Navy, perhaps.
Okay, but that mindset of just intentionality is huge.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, so where does it make sense to start sharing your story? Take us back to the beginning.
From like when I started in restaurants, just
Well, let me ask you this: when did you know you wanted to open a restaurant or be a restaurant owner?
I don't think I ever knew that I wanted to be a restaurant owner. You know, I've worked in restaurants for about 25 years. Since I was in high school, and I've just kind of felt like I've been a really hard worker, and that was like my skill into the restaurant itself. Like my aptitude for carrying a heavy load of work is great, and I always have felt like that is what the industry requires.
100%.
Yeah, it's just like long hours. Just grinding it out constantly. And I was with Dos Amigos burritos.
Was that your first job?
No, that wasn't my first job. I grew up in Rhode Island, and I worked. My first restaurant job was at Wright's Chicken Farm. It was like a 3,000 seat, tour bus. Like it was insanity. So and I was 16, and it was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had in my life.
Okay, so that was 16. When did you find yourself in New Hampshire?
I came up here to go to UNH.
Okay.
I graduated from UNH with an English degree.
Okay.
And then just stuck around, and I worked, at Margarita's Mexican restaurant in Portsmouth. Like
Margarita's is a great joint. They have a tight training program. They're a legit operation.
Yeah, and when I was there, it was, a little bit before they had kind of gotten a little more polished in a sense. But Dave.
What year was this? Can you date it for us?
Like 2001,
Okay.
2002, that range, and then onward. But yeah, the Pelletiers, like Dave and JP, awesome.
I would love
owners.
to get them on the show. Do you know them personally by any chance?
I know Dave pretty well.
Really?
Yeah, I could definitely try to
wink,
reach
wink,
out.
nod, nod.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He's a character, but he's so genuine and heartfelt. Like he used to walk through the kitchen and you just shoot the breeze with him and stuff like that. And I always admired his. The approachability that he had, and they owned like 10 or 15, locations, and I was just like, this is insane,
So, in 2001, you were at the Dover location or the Portsmouth location?
Dover didn't exist at that time,
Okay.
so yeah, I was working at the Portsmouth location.
What location was that for them? Like 3 or 4 or something like that? It started in Concord, right?
It started in Concord. I want to say by that time they probably had 10 locations.
Okay.
Portsmouth was one of their busier ones because their Exeter and Dover didn't exist at the time.
Right.
And so we were just cranking.
Yeah, they were one of the first. I mean, like the what would you call it? I mean, it's authentic Mexican food. They modeled it after their travels and their journey. I worked at Margaritas for a little bit myself, so I know kind of like the culture, the history.
Yeah.
And they brought a lot of that back, and they wanted to create that Mexican experience back here in New England. But it was before the huge Mexican Tex-Mex trend hit across the country.
Yeah.
I think they were one of the first in this area doing Mexican food.
Yeah, they definitely were, I'm not going to say ahead of their time, but they were on time.
They were on the leading edge of that trend for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the quality when I was working there, and I still go there from time to time. It's a great place to bring your family and hang out.
Yeah. I love it there. So when you were working there, were you in the kitchen?
I was, I started as a dishwasher. I worked up into the prep kitchen, and then I was like the lead prep cook for, several years, just kind of running the back kitchen. I was never a line cook. Line cooking it's not for me. I'm a morning person. I get up at 4 a.m. every day, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Working until 1 or 2 in the morning, not my thing.
Yeah, I can respect that. So what was it about your relationship with Dave, as a prep cook, as a lead prep cook for an organization that had 10 restaurants? How was he this close with all of his prep cooks?
No, he was just, he'd come in and he'd make himself available. You know, he wasn't like, I'm the owner, don't talk to me kind of thing. He's just kind of fun loving, if he'd be sitting at the bar sometimes after work, and you'd have a drink and you'd be able to have a conversation with him that was real and authentic. It just wasn't, he's a very genuinely giving and generous person, and he emanated that with his personality as well. Even to people who worked for him.
So all throughout college, this is where you're working.
That was where I was at. Yeah.
How many years in total?
So through college, started my freshman year, so 4 years, and then I would say another 4 years after that.
So 8 years altogether. When did you leave? What year was it?
That's a good question. So probably 2009.
Okay.
2000-ish.
Got it.
2010-ish.
I mean, you must have picked up something from this organization in terms of how to run a tight ship, because they were a tight run operation.
Absolutely.
At least in 2014.
Oh yeah.
I think it was actually like 2011 when I was working with them.
Sure.
So
their attention to detail, scratch made food, food waste. That was, your food cost is like crucial to your success as a business, as a restaurant. And like, we had some serious managers who were on you.
What was that culture like? How do you, because I think sometimes we think of culture, we think of like mission, vision, core values,
sure,
rah, like, but at the same time, culture is what you do every day.
Yeah.
The discipline to go through the motions of the hard work.
Sure.
So how did they approach that?
I don't necessarily, it was a fun place to work. I think that was kind of the culture is, no matter how busy we got, there was always an aspect of fun to be had. And I'm not saying make the customers or make the clientele feel, feel this fake fun. It was like everybody hung out with each other after work. We all had a good time together, socializing. They threw great company events, softball tournaments, bowling, like that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say it was like they incentivized you to do, to like perform better, to like be a part of that. It just kind of, you made your friends there. And
I think they also hire for it too. Because
Yeah.
I remember going through the interview process, they really wanted to know, what do you do for fun? Like,
Yeah.
we like to have a good time. What do you like? We don't care about like necessarily like your passion for Mexican food. What do you do when you're not working?
Yeah.
So that they're looking to hire people that want to be a part of a gang.
Yeah, for sure.
What else did you learn in terms of like how do they create that culture of fun?
Well, inside there was all just kind of games that we would play. I'm a task-oriented person, so it was a good place for me to work because there was always so much to do. And, creating games in your mind, like they may not have necessarily done that, but like I felt encouraged to do that. Like, like how fast can I get through this stack of dishes? Like,
Yeah.
How fast can I do that? And, that might be a silly way to get through your day, but it's a motivating way too for me. They allowed you the freedom to just kind of like, I worked in the back kitchen, so, play whatever music you want.
Yep.
And yeah, generally just have a good time, vibe with everybody out front, front of house and back of house kind of intermingled,
That's not common in a lot of restaurants. Usually
No.
they're like at each other's necks.
Yeah,
So like,
typically, yeah.
so how do they encourage that? Is it just through like the ball games and things like this and the after work events?
I think it was maybe just like not taking things so seriously. At the end of the day, yeah, you want to get everything right. You want all the stuff to go out on time. But if you can't do that with some kind of joy or smile, then what the hell are you doing it for? There's like no point. And the managers, I think a lot of it had to do with the management team at each restaurant. We had a particularly good one, in my opinion. But the way they're trained is they're cross-trained through every position in the restaurant. And that to me is helpful because you look at your manager and you're like, wow, they can literally do anything and step online, step behind the bar if someone's sick. So there's this hierarchical system, but you feel as if your management team is on the same level as you. And from a personal perspective, I think it was also helpful to have them walk through your shoes every day in a different manner. And I don't see that at a lot of restaurants. I think like sometimes managers are just like very
That's your job.
yeah, this is what you do. You stay in your lane.
Yeah.
and they don't encourage that.
I love that. So 2008, what was going on in your life where you decided to get away from this organization that seemed to be a great place to work?
Well, I was working 2 jobs, and I was working at Dos Amigos Burritos at night. I was like the night closer there, kitchen closer, and eventually I just kind of migrated that in that direction. I thought the organization was a little looser.
Dos Amigos was a little looser?
Yeah, Margaritas became a little bit more rigid.
Yeah, as you scale, that happens.
Yeah, numbers focused, time focused. And
what do you mean by time focused?
Like literally like timing. Like this is how long it's going to start to take you to do things.
So incentivizing or at least measuring energy output, where it's going, how efficient are we being?
Yeah, and I at the time I didn't appreciate that. Yeah. So, so I wanted to go to, I guess, a little more, looser company, a newer company, something that wasn't so finely tuned, that had room.
Is there a wrestling match going on?
I don't know what's going on. Something's going on back there. It might be sweeping.
Oh, okay. So you were just like, it was kind of moving away from what you wanted in your life at that time.
Yeah. I was a little, I was a single guy. I was like, I don't want to work for, I don't want to call it a machine, but like, I don't want the rigidness of my day to be just like, this is where, I wanted a little more freedom, I guess.
Through an owner's lens, do you have a different appreciation for that today?
I do. Yeah. I definitely like to focus on efficiency, like especially in the kitchen when we're making food. Like I think things take a certain amount of time, but I also don't want to force my will upon people and step on toes. So, it's all about kind of gauging your audience and knowing when to, speak up and be like, hey, let's go. Let's move it a little faster, kind of thing.
Got it. How long were you at Dos Amigos? How long was that overlap happening?
Overlap was a few years, probably.
Okay. So you're working, what, like 60, 70 hours a week?
Yeah, there was a time where I was working probably 80 hours a week. Yeah,
what was your aspiration at this time? Were you just trying to make money to pay off debt? Were you trying to get somewhere?
Yeah, I was just like banking money. I didn't have a lot going on after I graduated. I was, hanging out with all the musical kids, going to shows and having a good time. And yeah, I just worked a lot. And that's kind of what how I got through that time. I saved a lot of money, and then I took like a year and a half off and went on a road trip.
Nice. Where'd you go?
All over across the country. It wasn't a very long road trip. We skirted the northern part of the United States and then came down the coast into Baja.
Nice.
Back up into Colorado, and then skirted back across.
Everybody should drive across this country.
I agree, 100%.
It's a gorgeous country, man.
One of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, I love that. So 2006 to when were you with Dos Amigos?
Oh, man. 2006. I took some time off from them, and then I came back at some point, like that road trip.
Right.
I was gone for probably a year and a half. I moved back home to Rhode Island and just was floating for a while. Came back up here and started working both jobs again. But again, I started working mostly at Dos Amigos. I think I worked for Dos Amigos for like 12 or 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't jump around jobs. If I find something that I feel, good about every day, I'm going to show up.
We need more of you in this industry. So when you came back, what year was that when you came back?
I want to say it was probably the years are long ago.
Unfortunately, I work chronologically.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I want to say it was like the 2010, 2009, 2010 range. I was back up in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And yeah, from that point on, I was at Margaritas for a little while. But again, I eventually came back full time to Dos. And
so, what was your progression like at Dos? Like you came on as a prep cook? What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
I came on as like a burrito roller at night. I worked in the back kitchen, kind of ran their back kitchen at night. I was a night prep and burrito roller. And then from there, when I started to work more hours and work more full time, I became a full-time prep cook, mostly in the mornings. But again, moonlighted up in the front of the house, burrito rolling, kind of like doing both positions. And then eventually I became like the head prep cook.
Okay. When did that happen?
Oh, I want to say probably like 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're working with the J Group.
Yep.
If anybody's familiar with that group, it's probably because I've had a majority of the partners in the different groups on the show. I've had Jay McSherry on the show, the kind of the top dog in the J Group.
Sure.
David Vargas. I've had Caitlin McGrath.
Yep.
Who else? I mean, there's so many different groups. Like Jonathan Blakesley from White Heron.
Yep.
Just name a restaurant group.
Stock Nicole from
had
Stock.
Had Nicole from the Stock on the show. Their barbecue.
Ornell's. Why can't?
I know. Dude, I've done 1,100 episodes. It's hard for me to keep track too. But I mean, the J Group is absolutely a staple.
Willie Miska.
Also Moxie too, right? Moxie's a part of that group.
Moxie. Yeah, Franklin Oyster House.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Street, another one.
Street, yeah, with Patrick. Yeah.
So I mean, all like these pretty much staples in the Portsmouth. They started really in Portsmouth, and now it's all over the seacoast.
Sure.
These staples in these communities, the J Group is behind it. So I know that is also a very well-run organization. So what was it different? How was Dos Amigos better or worse in certain ways, or what did you learn from this experience under the tutelage of the J Group?
Yeah, so Dos Amigos was kind of growing at that time. They had a location in Portsmouth. We had a location in Dover.
Is that where you started, Dover?
I started in the Dover location,
okay.
Yeah. And then there was the one in Concord. And when I came on in a more fuller capacity, they opened one in Rochester for a time. And what kind of happened when Rochester opened was that the Dover location almost turned into like a commissary kitchen where we were making food out of the Dover location for Rochester, and then we started to make food for Portsmouth as well. And a lot of this had to do with like staffing. It was hard finding, properly trained cooks at the time. For Joel, Joel Harris is part owner of Dos Amigos with Jay McSherry.
Okay.
They're kind of like a 50-50 ownership duo.
Joel started it?
Joel was, he was the one who came with the idea to Jay, and Jay.
And was he working with Jay before that?
He was not. No, they opened the Portsmouth one. I want to say like almost over 20 years ago now. Yeah,
it was a while ago. What is your understanding of what or how the J Group operates in terms of scaling? I have some ideas, but I want to hear it through your lens.
Well, with my experience, I can only really speak with Dos, like from my Dos Amigos experience. It can happen quickly. They opened the Rochester one, and it wasn't doing well, and they closed it down very quickly.
That was the first one.
So Portsmouth was the first one.
Right.
Dover was the second one. Then it was Concord. Or Dover and Concord happened at very similar times.
Yeah.
Then they opened one in Rochester, a very small outlet. It didn't do particularly well, and so they.
Do you think that was mostly due to market? at that time?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
It
what time
right,
was that, like 14?
Yeah, it was right downtown. It was in a little spot, like right next to the fire station downtown Rochester.
Yeah, was struggling around this time as a town.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah.
This was before, what is the restaurant? Is it Revolutions?
Right.
It was before all that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were making food out of the commissary, shipping it over there. We had a refrigerated van. And then that one closed down. And then they pivoted to Newburyport, and they opened one in Newburyport. And that was open for a while. So it was Portsmouth, Dover, Newburyport, and Concord. And the Dover location was making all the food for Newburyport, Portsmouth, and Dover.
Got it. So you were
which I was
responsible
in charge
with
for that. Yeah.
Got it.
We were working out of a little kitchen with some really old equipment, and it was not conducive to what we were trying to do. It was,
Well, I mean, from what I understand, Dos Amigos was the largest scaled concept under the J Group portfolio at this time.
yeah, I believe so.
In sense.
I think so. Yeah, it had 4 locations going at one time.
Right. And my understanding of the J Group and what I've seen through talking to different people is Jay's really today more of a portfolio guy where he acquires properties and he provides opportunity to people, whether they be in the community or whether they be in his restaurants that are going to go do their own thing.
Sure.
And then he just kind of says, I got a property. Like, what's your vision? What do you want to do? And then he works with people to move vertically into higher roles. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how this HiFi came about in a large regards. So I can't remember the exact years, but about 5-6 years ago, Dos Amigos started to shrink a little bit, or contract, and Jay and Joel decided to close the Dover location, and that is when the idea for this business came to be.
5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, about 5.
So is that's stock now?
That's where
location?
stock is located.
So
yeah.
Jay owned that building and moved a new concept into it.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. I mean, it's weird because you feel like the burrito concept is just one of those like economy proof, like fast casual, kind of has that sticking power. Like everybody wants a burrito.
Sure.
You got Chipotle, which is nationwide.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go across the country, there's a local burrito shop. The Seacoast, it was Dos Amigos for a while. Then you
Yeah.
had Las Olas pop up.
Yeah.
Which was like the only other one that I knew of that like was doing pretty well.
Yeah,
Like,
it had multiple locations.
right. So what was going on where like this concept wasn't working as much as where you would have to close locations?
From my point of view, I was in the kitchen. We were, I think, doing a really good job of trying to make the food as fresh and organized as possible, because that's what it is a lot of times, is organization and trying to keep your pars in line with
Cost control.
Yeah, exactly, with what the restaurants are going through. I think the problem from what I saw was youth and training, or maybe lack thereof. We had a lot of young managers who, from what I saw, didn't have a lot of experience in those roles, and I think needed a little bit more coaching and help.
Right.
And if you don't have the basics down, it can kind of get away from you very quickly.
Yeah, and this isn't a jab at the J Group. I love what they've done, but they tend to build one-off concepts, and their structure is having a leader in each one of those concepts.
Absolutely,
where they have their person, like it's Nicole at Stock, it's Dave Vargas at help me out here.
Vita Cantina.
Think of Vita Cantina. It's Matt Lewis at Moxie. You have these rock star like leaders that you provide opportunity to, and they're kind of the anchor for that location. But Dos Amigos is the only concept they really scaled. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole other suite of things. Scaling leadership isn't, when you have different people like that, maybe that wasn't their forte or their strength because they didn't have a lot of experience doing it.
Yeah, I think some of it too is distance. Like it's really hard to manage that many restaurants when they're that far apart.
Right.
Like Newburyport is, it's like 50 minutes from Dover. Concord is an hour and 10 minutes from Dover. Portsmouth is whatever 20 minutes from Dover. I'm just using Dover as the central because we were the commissary kitchen for 3 of the locations.
Right.
So for me, it was a hub. It was the Seacoast hub. But yeah, that was a lot too. It's hard to coordinate. Say you run out of something. It's like, okay, how are we going to get it there in the quickest amount of time we can? So if you're not organized in the restaurant itself as like from a management point of view and ordering food and keeping your par and rotation down, trouble can occur.
Can creep.
Yeah.
So where was Dos Amigos when you decided to close all the locations? What year was that?
Let's see. I want to say Dover closed in like 2018, I believe.
And that was the commissary.
That was the commissary, yeah.
So
by that time, the commissary had actually moved off site.
Okay.
And the commissary for Dos Amigos was located in a mill space on 1 Washington Street in Dover. And we were doing all the prep out of like a mill space kitchen.
Okay.
And then Newburyport, I believe, closed, within like 6 months of that, I think.
Okay.
And then Portsmouth hung on through the pandemic and I think shuttered.
That was probably your best performing location?
For a long time. It was, again, I can only speak from an employee's perspective. Joel and Jay were the owners, and
I used to love a drunken burrito, man.
Yeah,
I would go there all the time.
They moved it. I think some of the issues too were Portsmouth moved to a new location in Portsmouth, from State Street to I want to say like Port Walk Place.
Okay.
Where the hotels are.
Yep.
And I don't know. I think there was something about that location that just wasn't conducive to what we were offering at the time.
Well, I would say too, the original location in Portsmouth was kind of closer to that like drinking culture, like that late night culture of D Street Tavern, in that part of town.
Yeah.
Old Port, right? And then on the new side of town, it was more like elevated, probably, I don't know.
Clientele walking through,
highbrow.
Hotel guests,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it.
Yeah, they say location. That seemed like a really good move at the time, I think. Again, I'm only speaking from I was an employee.
Either. I'm just speculating myself.
So, I think it is what it is.
Right.
A big shiny new location. I think you kind of jump at that,
right.
And hopefully it works. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
So,
so Jay McSherry was 50%, and the other partner was
Joel Harris.
Joel Harris.
Yep.
So when take me to where, you were with Dos until the very end, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Was Joel just kind of like done? Was he like just ready to like retire and get out of the business?
No. So Joel the Concord location for Dos Amigos is still
okay. Cool.
Yeah, open, up and running in downtown Concord, and I used to call it the mothership. They were the busiest location. Still are. They're crushing it.
Nice.
They do so well up there. But no, yeah, Joel and Jay still own that jointly together. When the Dover location closed, myself and 2 other employees who were working in the commissary at the time, we thought that was, we thought it was a mistake. And we thought it was our opportunity to kind of jump into...
To fill the burrito hole in Dover.
Exactly, yeah. It was one of those things where, Dos Amigos had been a staple for just years, like a full decade. And we were like, we can't let this go away.
Okay.
And so, myself, Stephen Ordway, and Mitch Purington, we were all working at the commissary at the time. We approached Joel with the idea, and then he brought it to Jay, and we had a meeting with the 2 of them and kind of presented our thoughts on it. And Jay kind of gave his blessing. He wasn't interested in pursuing or reopening the brand in Dover. I think maybe he kind of had enough of it for the time,
right?
And was trying to refocus his efforts somewhere else.
Got it.
And he was like, "Yeah, you guys can take over my portion of this business, and Joel stayed on. So Joel is still an owner in HiFi BURRITOS.
Got it.
So yeah, like our genesis, the genesis of HiFi BURRITOS comes out of Dos Amigos directly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was really interested in this story because of the lineage, right?
Sure.
And I have a lot of respect for that organization, so I assumed that it was a cordial situation and almost like succession, right? Like, how do you pass the baton? And like, what?
Sure.
So like, what did that conversation look like?
It was intimidating at first, for sure.
Yeah.
Jay's like a hugely successful restaurateur and property owner, and like got like the most respect for that guy. He's one of those super approachable people, like Dave Pelletier.
Yeah, if you can lock him down, that's the hard part.
Yeah, he's always moving, man. He is a moving target. And if you have a good idea, he'll give you his ear.
Yeah.
But people are giving good ideas to him a lot. So.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what happens when you just I think he's a great example of if you do good work and you put your head down and you work on your businesses, and you develop a reputation, the opportunity comes to you. You don't go looking for the opportunity. You just do the work. And people, you're like a bright light, like the moths come to you.
Yeah,
right?
he surrounds himself with the best.
Yeah.
And it's the proof's in the pudding. He owns some of the best restaurants on the seacoast, and they're doing some amazing things. And
For sure,
it's a testament to the people around him as much as it is to him.
For sure. So, so you approach him. They move Dos Amigos out of the Dover market. You're like, that's a mistake. Like, there's a market for this type of food. You say to him, can we take over Dos Amigos? And they say, we don't want to continue the Dos Amigos brand. So his partnership with Joel is ended at this point?
Just in that location, yeah.
And then you say...
Portsmouth was still open at the time. I believe Newburyport was still open at the time, or was closing very soon after. So it's almost like we took on... It was almost like taking on a franchise in a sense.
Right. But you didn't take over the Dos Amigos brand.
No, we did not. So we worked off the concept, and when we opened officially like 6 or 7 days before the pandemic shut down in 2019, end of 2019.
Was there an LLC, a similar LLC tied to it, so you could get the benefits of?
So what we decided to do again with Joel's involvement is we took an aspect of the name and we called ourselves Dos Mexican Eats.
Okay.
Jay was okay with that. Joel was okay with that.
And that's the parent company.
That is the parent company of HiFi BURRITOS. It's actually Dos LLC.
Okay.
And again, at the time, we couldn't think of a better thing to come up with. We did use some of that traction early on to like
slingshot.
Yeah, name recognition is huge.
Yeah.
They were a foundational restaurant in this area for a while, so it's like if Jay and Joel were okay with it and gave their blessing, we were like, let's try to utilize this to our benefit.
So if Joel's a partner in this business, was a partner in the last business, you're basically just replacing Jay's share. Mm-hmm. Why not just continue to have it be Dos Amigos in a new location?
Because we wanted to branch off and do our own thing in a little bit. A large part of our menu overlaps with Dos Amigos. There are a lot of similar things on there, but we felt by moving away from it that we would have more of the freedom to do what we wanted menu-wise or just directionally.
Maybe elevate it differently, or not maybe elevate it, but just pivot it, evolve it, juxtapose.
We pivoted it pretty hard. We were going to change the service style and go to a more Chipotle style line, which Dos Amigos never really did that.
Different recipes?
Different recipes, but again, some overlapping items. And then new menu items that have been kind of staples since we've opened that don't appear, on the Dos Amigos brand. Got it.
So when were you open? 2020, just before the 2020 pandemic, you guys kind of started off as HiFi.
Yeah, no, we started off as Dos Mexican Eats.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did that switch happen?
This is when it's all, it's just a very confusing thing.
Right.
We switched to HiFi about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So last August.
Okay.
Yeah, August of 2023.
Okay.
We were Dos Mexican Eats was located in the One Washington Mill building on the first floor all throughout the pandemic. our intention was to open as a fast casual burrito restaurant, Chipotle style, walk-through line. And like I mentioned before, we opened about 7 or 8 days before the pandemic shut down. So we had to close for a month and a half. We opened for a week, and then we closed for 2 months, as most people did. And then when we reopened, we were a fully takeout only restaurant.
Got it.
Nobody came into our space. No one walked into it. We pivoted hard to online ordering. We were too new in ownership, or too.
There was no brand recognition, or just even knowing that was there.
Yeah, we were just too inexperienced as owners, and I'm speaking as myself, Mitch, and Steve, who were the three owner operators with Joel as a silent partner. Joel had all the experience in the world, but he was letting us run this. This was our thing, Steve, Mitch, and I. And we just didn't know any better. We were like, all right, let's reopen, and we're going to be takeout only.
All right. Was this in the commissary? Were you utilizing the Dos Amigos commissary kitchen?
Yes, we were working out of the commissary, but we had rented a unit, an empty unit on the same floor. So we had
to be like the storefront.
To be the storefront, yeah.
Got it.
So it was about a 544 square foot
That's all you need for
room.
takeout, right?
Yeah. We built up high ceilings.
Oh, cool. So many questions. When you pivoted, I am curious. When you took out the $100,000, was that for that space over there, or was that for this space?
That was for this space.
So did you have to get into any debt when you pivoted to be Dos?
Very little. Our
Dos Mexican is what it was called?
Yeah, Dos Mexican Eats.
Got it.
Is what we went with. No, we our initial overhead to get that open was very low. It was we were working out of an existing kitchen, and that was where most of the expensive equipment was. Quite frankly, the hood system, the range, fryolators, stove, and we were working out of there. And I think our initial startup to get the storefront open was under $30,000. It was low.
What was your rent like?
Rent was, I think, $750 for the
Between
storefront.
two?
No, so we were working out of the commissary, and then we started to pay an hourly rent to Jay, he owned the kitchen with Joel, and I want to say it was a little over $1,000.
Okay, was
for the commissary, and then $850 or $750 for the storefront. We were still making food for what was it, for the Portsmouth location, and then we were also making food for Street.
Okay.
And then for a little while we were making food for Vita Cantina, but not making all the food. We were making very particular menu items.
Got it. So how was that working? So you have your brand that you create called Dos Mexican Eats that you, Steve, and Mitch own, and Joel. Mm-hmm. Do you guys split? Is that 50% you, the three of you, and then 50% Joel?
It was 51 Joel and then 49 for the three of us.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then you're also producing now. Are you being contracted out to produce the food for Jay's? Is that a contract license?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. We were. When we first opened Dos Mexican Eats, I was still employed by the J Group.
Okay.
And so was Mitch, and we were basically billing out to multiple locations. We were tracking our time on each prep item and invoicing Street for, say, making their pho, or billing Vita Cantina for making their enchilada sauce.
Got it.
Billing Dos Amigos for making everything on the menu, and billing Dos Mexican Eats for
So they're kind of like your first clients.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
Was that kind of paying the bills while you're getting your brand Dos Mexican Eats going?
It was more it wasn't paying the bills, so to speak, because we were paying Jay, we were billing ourselves out as well. So we worked for the J groups, Mitch and myself still worked for the
still
J
employed,
group.
right?
And then eventually after a year and a half, we we stopped working for the J Group and we took the kitchen over, officially. The commissary, the J Group can be like a very twisted web of relationships,
right?
And it's definitely hard to untie sometimes. Like for me being in it, like I can picture each piece of it very clearly, but explaining it can be muddled sometimes.
Well, I mean, for the record, what the J Group does is what I think is going to be the saving grace for independent restaurant owners, where it is a bunch of people, a bunch of talent coming together, pooling resources. From the way I understand it, basically the J Group manages like the books, like they're like the back office for all those restaurants, and they let the chefs kind of do like the chefs in the front of house kind of like run the restaurants, but they're doing like the back office, like restaurant 365 stuff.
Yeah.
Like accounting, inventory, purchasing, costing, all that sort of thing. Like the 100%. Books.
Yep.
So dividing, conquering, leveraging talents of chefs, cross-utilizing talent between concepts when needed, when it makes sense. Like I know that like Matt will come in and like help exec on some like concept. It's very much a family of businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And they have like really awesome events, like where Chef Vargas will go over to Ornell's and do like a barbecue series with other chefs in the group. I want to think, is it Jeremy Glover? He works for Nishinan, but he was the head chef at Raleigh Wine Bar for a while, which Raleigh was not a J Group restaurant, but he's one of the most talented chefs in Portsmouth.
It's a bummer that place closed.
Yeah, so good, man. He is such a talented guy.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of like the relationships and like how to manage that in a way that's like healthy and like egos don't get involved.
Sure.
Like any like lessons to learn from that like transition?
For me, I think I've had the fortunate opportunity to like work with a lot of these chefs. Like, we were doing work with Dave and I was working with him and on stuff, and same thing with Patrick from Street. And I think the one thing that I've learned was, patience. Like I used to not be a patient guy. I was a very like hot-headed cook, I guess, and if we couldn't get it done on time, it would really frustrate me. And then working with Dave and trying to bring a level of like professionalism and empathy to like the cooking and working with others, and at the end of the day, trying to realize that we're just making food. It's not. We're not solving the problems of the world here. We are in a little bit. We're feeding people, but the day to day is. It's the end all be all is not like how fast you get it done, or like I don't know, like empathizing with like everyone comes at it from a different experience, and has different things to give each day. That's kind of what I picked up from those guys. It's like you learn that it's not all about you.
Right, 100%. So what happened in 2023, or where did you get Dos Mexican Eats in August of 2023 before pivoting to HiFi?
As where do we get it to?
Yeah, in terms of like numbers, scale.
Sure. So I would say we were one of the few restaurants that benefited from the pandemic. We opened, and again, we had to shut down for 2 months to get our shit together.
Yeah, you can say that.
And when we came back, we were hitting the ground running. We had, full online ordering platform. Like we were one
what
of the
first. What were you using?
We're using Hazelnut.
Okay.
It tandems with Clover. And
okay.
We have an app that, quite frankly, Steve was the biggest pusher of all of that. He helped develop most of it.
Yeah, I was curious about that. So talk more about the Steve, Mitch, and Brett, like that three-headed
monster. Yeah. Just some buds, like having beers on the porch, and we were like, let's open. We want to open a restaurant. This is what we want to work it off of. Steve was kind of our front of house, guru, if you want to call it, manager extraordinaire. And Mitch and I were in the kitchen. Mitch was definitely R&D creative, and I was the one with like probably the most institutional knowledge of what we were like working in and within. And we just kind of we just took it from all different angles. Mitch probably like one of the most talented chefs I know, worked in fine dining, worked in fast casual, every type of restaurant, and we brought him in, and yeah, he was a godsend in so many ways, and still is. I respect him like immensely.
Who was the numbers guy?
I would say Steve was. He did most of the books on the day-to-day. Once we got up and running, and setting up accounts and taking care of like payroll and all that kind of stuff, food costing and whatnot. That was like Mitch and I. We kept track of that.
Got it. So you said you're the pandemic helped you. You were just takeout only. Like, how did you get that business if people didn't know about you yet?
I do, the traction of the name helped. We were working off of some of that. When was it? I can't even remember when the pandemic happened.
It was March of 2020.
Yeah. All right. So, we reopened on Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
Fun. And yeah, it was not a great idea. It was probably one of the worst days of service that I can ever remember, but we managed to get through it. It was myself, Mitch, Steve, and I think we had one other person on at the time. His name was Damien. He was like an 18-year-old kid, and he was a little hoodlum. I love him. But we opened on Cinco de Mayo, and we just promoted the hell out of it on Instagram. And we had, we've all worked in the restaurant industry around here for a long time, and we've had a lot of friends and family around here, and a lot of colleagues as well. And, they helped, carry us along too with promoting us and whatnot. And we opened on Cinco de Mayo, or reopened on Cinco de Mayo, and we offered, Cinco de Mayo taco party packages.
Nice.
Pre-order. And we sold like 75 of them.
Damn.
And we did a regular service.
Damn.
Too. And there was only 4 of us.
Wow.
And it was really, really dumb.
How much did you do that night in terms of gross?
We did about $6,000 in sales.
It's not bad.
I think it was probably the busiest day we've ever
4
had.
people on staff?
Just 4 people. And it was...
Mostly profit, I'm assuming?
Yeah, like almost, yeah. It was... And so that was like hit the ground running. And then we were open... I think 5 days a week from then on, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of kept going. Like takeout was that was the thing. That was all you could do.
Right. So you're controlling your operational costs. You can keep your labor costs low.
100%. Yeah. We by switching to online ordering, we didn't have a register person. So your labor goes down automatically because you don't have someone ringing people out, and it diversifies.
Less mistakes
because it's you're reading tickets. Yeah. And at the time, we were incredibly fast. We utilized DoorDash to a great success too. And then, we weren't afraid to, again, because I think we were too stupid to not try things like, we raised all our prices on DoorDash, like above our menu prices.
Well, I was curious, what was that strategy? Because a lot of people go back and forth on DoorDash, so you just use it as a marketing tool.
Yeah. Really it's if you want our food, and you're willing to pay more for it, that's all right. By from my point of view. Did you learn to do that to incentivize people to not use DoorDash and order from you directly to save money, or was that just your way to cover costs? It was the way to cover costs. They were taking such a large percentage of our sales. It seemed foolish not to try to recoup that in some way. So we just increased our prices to that to try to match as much as we could, as close as we could to the percentage. Has there ever been an exercise or a strategy to migrate people from third party to your own platforms? There actually hasn't. No, I would say the closest thing we've done is we have an app that, again, Steve was integral in developing, in tandem with Hazelnut. Are you still on Hazelnut today? We are still on Hazelnut today. And I think for an independently owned small business, we have one of like the slickest apps. It's as polished and professional looking as the big guns. So you use Clover for your POS. Yep. And then you have an overlay Hazelnut, which is a customizable
customizable app for restaurants.
Exactly. Yep.
And how does it come? Is it just like the framework, the template, and then you just put your branding and menu items into it?
Yeah, so they kind of walk you through it. Their techs, again, Steve would be able to speak a lot more to this if he were here, because again, he was the one who developed it. But yeah, once that template is laid, your online ordering platform and your menu is set up, and it's kind of plug and play after that, and you can remove items, close items down if you run out. If you have to 86 something. Price changing is incredibly easy. It's very intuitive.
Got it. What's that little audible noise that I hear, that beeping every once in a while? Is that
one right there is DoorDash.
That's DoorDash. But there's a beep.
The other one is it's probably Clover. It actually could be our camera system in the background.
I'm just curious about that, because that's a new. I was like, that's a new noise. I'm not sure if that's deliveries or what's going on back there. So what percentage would you say of your business is like walk-in versus online ordering from your platform, Hazelnut, versus DoorDash?
Sure. So originally, I would say, all of our, like 95% of our ordering when we first opened was through our online ordering, because we weren't actually taking walk-ups at the time, because we were just no contact.
Right.
And then, DoorDash, I would say was probably like 10 to 15% at the time. And it slowly started to grow. I would say it's about 20% of our business at this point.
Okay. And then the 80% would be?
Currently, I would say the 80% would be split up, or 60-40. Like, we do more walk-ins now than I think we do online ordering, yeah.
Okay. So it's 10%. Wait, did you say 20 or 10%?
Sorry. Yeah. Currently, DoorDash is probably about 20%. That next 80%, if you split that up, 50-30.
Got it.
For 50 for walk-in, 50% for walk-ins, 30% for online ordering.
So, and you moved into this physical space in August of 2023.
Yes.
So that having that this is a great spot, right? Tons of traffic.
It's amazing. Yeah. We were so fortunate. Our previous location in the One Washington Mills under Dos Mexican Eats, Chinberg Properties owns that mill, and they own this plaza. And they approached us, Tabitha, their like office manager, our properties manager. She tipped us off that the previous tenant, Locksmith Bagels, was going out, and that they thought we'd be a great fit. And at that time, business-wise, we were in a little bit of like turmoil. We had kind of flatlined by, the pandemic was tapering off. And this was the beginning of 2023.
Right.
I'd say January or February they had come to us about this.
Yeah, people aren't ordering online as much. You don't have that storefront, that street appeal
exactly
anymore.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to navigate the parking lot where we were located at. And so our business had kind of gone a little stagnant and flat. And at that time, Mitch was moving on to other opportunities, and he wanted to leave the business. So that was happening. And Steve was also having some second thoughts, because again, things were just not. The pandemic wasn't fun.
Right.
But we had some pretty good times in our little restaurant.
Right.
We called it the bunker. It was like. It was our sanctuary from all the the hellscape of that.
So the rebrand to HiFi Burritos, was that because you now are the sole proprietor with Joel?
So no, Steve was still in ownership at that time when we started to begin the process of moving over here. We weren't sure if we were going to change the name when we had the opportunity to move. We discussed it as a group, Joel, Steve, and myself, and we came to the consensus that we thought it was a good idea.
Why was that?
I think it was to kind of just open a new chapter. We were moving from what we thought was our like little forever home, and kind of growing into a bigger space with a bigger presence. And
the Dos Amigo brand isn't as big as it once was, so you're not maybe leveraging that as much as it was.
I think some of that is, but I also think it was we just kind of wanted to try to continue to go in our own direction, and do our own things. And as much as the Dose name helped us in the beginning. I think we all felt like it could hamper us going forward, not because the brand itself was negative. We just wanted to try to create something different and new. So changing the name felt like a fresh start for us.
So initially, when you did land here, you had the new brand, the new name. You probably just switched the domain, but kept the framing of the website.
Yeah.
Maybe new colors, new branding on the website.
Yeah.
Steve probably took care of all that.
Yeah, he took care of a lot of the digital aspect. We actually kept the branding colors the same.
Okay.
These were like really interesting discussions that we were like, do we change the colors? Like, is this something we should walk away from? And it's like, no, this is a recognizable part of the brand. Like, let's keep it. And again, some of it works off of Dos Amigos, you know, and that's part of like Joel's, you know, silent partnership aspect. Like, he's there when we need him, you know, but ultimately, like, he's let us like kind of ride the ship ourselves.
So now it's you, Steve, splitting 49%, and then Joel with the 51%.
Not exactly, no. So I purchased Mitch's ownership percentage. So Joel, at that time, Joel was 51, I was 32, and Steve was still at like the 16.
Got it.
0.9. And yeah, so we kept, you know, we moved up here in August of 2023 and got things open, and it was like gangbusters.
That's awesome.
It was so busy.
So what was it that made it so busy in your opinion? Was it the new brand, the freshened up brand, the new look, or just the location?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it's that age-old testament of like new restaurant, like everyone wants to come check it out, right?
Right.
There was that, you know, there was the mural on the front of the building. There was all these like things that we tried to do to like bring attention to the space. We also had a very short window of closure. I think we closed the space next door and we were open about 4 days later.
Okay.
Up here, which was not a great idea.
How did you communicate to the people that were your steady customers? Like, we're not going anywhere. We're gonna have a new brand. Like, here's how to find us. Here's
all social media.
Yep.
It was all Instagram. I don't even think we have an active Facebook page right now, which is probably not a good idea.
I don't know if Facebook's that important anymore.
Yeah.
I think Instagram is the big one. Instagram and unfortunately TikTok are the two I think that people are most influenced on.
Sure.
For food.
But yeah, so Instagram, and then we had Foster's come out and do like a newspaper story, which was probably very helpful. And that was kind of it. You know, we just opened silently one day, and then over the course of the next few weeks, it was very, very busy in here, kind of to an overwhelming, not a healthy amount of business. Let's put it that way.
August was your first full year.
Yeah.
In terms of like numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, what was the growth like? I mean, month over month, has it been growing, or has it plateaued? Did it peak, and has it
from when we left the mill building next door as Dos Mexican Eats to coming over here, I would say our business has doubled.
Okay.
So we were, in the range of like $500,000 to $600,000 at our busiest. Like I said, things had plateaued by the time we decided to change the name and move over here. But as I spoke earlier, we're on pace to probably do $1 million in sales this year.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations in the first year. So in terms of like where you are today, painting the picture of where you are today, you're doing catering. You do you broke down the mix between DoorDash and takeout and you own your own online ordering. Mm-hmm. Do you have a plan to try to migrate that DoorDash business? Are you worried about losing the data, I guess, like your email list? Do you have an email list?
We do. So yeah, everything that comes through our online ordering platform or our app, is email based. We have like we have a user membership for our app, at least, that, I want to say it's like 2,000 users long. I can tap into that whenever we want to either send rewards, send messages, and then utilize that information if we wanted to like run other promotions.
Yeah, talk more about that app.
So the app, again, it's run through Hazelnut. it's exclusive. It's our app. It's on your phone. It's in your pocket all the time.
Push notifications.
Yeah, we have push notifications.
Loyalty.
We have loyalty program. And
what about secret menu items through the app or anything like that?
we can make daily announcements and whatnot. We don't utilize that, like a feature like that, very often, but again, we're not utilizing the app to probably its fullest potential, and I would say that's probably my weakest point is like promoting that, because it is like it's a pretty awesome. I think it's a pretty awesome thing, but we just try to let people find it, either via our website, or when we do promote it, we promote it, through social media.
Yeah.
And then we used to have like a kiosk platform that we had at the other restaurant for people like ordering, when we were doing contactless ordering.
Okay. And you decided you didn't carry the kiosk over?
Yeah, kiosk didn't really make much sense in here. We didn't have a lot of space to move it, and
it's also the Chipotle approach.
Yeah, the ordering system is so quick. If you come in here and if you're a regular and you know what you're doing as far as the ordering goes, you can have your food in under like 2 minutes. It's like so fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, the kiosk didn't really make a lot of sense. We experimented with like QR codes and stuff like that back in the day, and that worked a little bit because we had partnered up with like Auspicious Brew in the mill during the pandemic. They were kind of like our dining room for their food.
So basically, people would scan the QR code, and that would go to your POS system, and they could order it, and you would just deliver it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Auspicious is right on that corner of one, right? So
yes, on Washington.
Got it. So what's the future? I mean, well, before we get away, any other tech stack stuff we should know about that you're leveraging? You got your POS, you got your app, you're using DoorDash. What about marketing platforms, email?
No, not really. We don't do a lot of advertising. Like I probably to my detriment or our detriment, but I've always really felt that you come in here and you have the food and you're gonna know that you should come back.
Right.
So we gotta let the product and the service speak for itself.
So any current challenges today as a business owner, personally, struggles?
Work-life balance.
Yep.
I have a 5.5-year-old and my wife at home. I wish I could see him more. I work a lot. I'm here 6 days a week, and I think that's probably one of the toughest things for this industry, especially as an owner, is trying to find that kind of balance.
Right.
And
so what are your personal and what? Sorry, I don't want to cut you short.
Yeah, no worries. Just trying to like have a better focus of things. Like this restaurants can be all consuming. Something breaks. You're constantly thinking of like if a refrigerator is going to go down, or your POS system is going to go down.
Does that happen with you in Clover?
Yeah, it's happened before. Yeah. They've had like system-wide outages like right during like dinner rushes on Friday nights.
Ouch.
It's like the worst. And you have to pivot hard. You just like do what you can. Throw something up on social media and be like, we're taking phone orders for the night.
Right.
We don't do that on the day-to-day, but you gotta switch it up when you can.
So what are the short-term goals?
The short-term goals, I think going into the new year as we end this one is to increase our sales. Obviously, we've done a lot of outreach with like doing pop-ups and doing special events and stuff like that in the summertime. Trying to do more of those over the winter to increase our visibility, and just I don't know, steady as she goes.
Yeah, I think that's the best marketing, honestly, is food in mouth.
Yeah,
get the food out there.
Yeah,
get people to taste it. Provide a good experience. Let them know. Have like a flyer out to like download our app. Scan this QR code to download the app and order from like directly. Just those pop-ups, collaborating, slingshotting off of other people's brands. Just so, like choosing to work with other brands in the area. Like I think that is the best way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. It's super helpful. Like we've done a lot of good stuff with North Country Hard Cider, and they have such a tremendous reach. They have this beautiful tasting room. beautiful product. Their staff is incredible, and their clientele is our clientele, quite frankly. And we try to cater that to as much as we can when we go over there. Like anytime we go to do an event over there, it's always gluten-free. It's running new specials and stuff like that. And we kind of treat it as our test kitchen, and to do new ideas that we can try to bring into the restaurant, because our style we rely on our regulars. Like you come in, it's the same every day. And that's purposeful. It's how we want it.
So when you are doing the pop-ups, are you just bringing like a line of tables and you kind of prep everything here and just kind of move it over there?
It's pretty lowbrow. We're induction burners, steam table, all electric. We don't have the fiscal background to like have a food truck. I think having a food truck might be a long-term goal. I'm not. This is nice for me. Joel may have other ideas, but one restaurant is good for me. I don't have a lot of bandwidth. I want to be with my family and focus on things. And but a food truck, I think, is something that we might explore in the future.
Great tool for marketing. Getting it, like 100%. Just being roll up to those events. Hire a crew to run it. And use this as a commissary, but getting it out there, doing all the whether it be like the seafood fest, even though you're not seafood, but like just getting out there.
Yeah, right? And our service style, would work very well out of a structure like that. Scoop and serve. It's very quick, it's fast, and it's affordable. It's
great market research too.
Yeah, 100%.
So, what about long-term goals? Do you have aspirations? Like, do you have a vision for this place?
My vision for this place is to. I think, like, for me, I'm so, I think there's a lot of honor in kind of doing the same thing, but doing it well over and over. And I don't think that's a huge focus in this country. We're all about trying to grow things to their biggest possibilities. I like what we have here. Would I like it to be slightly larger? Sometimes the dining room feels a little small.
Right.
Yeah, that would be great. But do I see us leaving this spot? I don't think so. Ultimately I want to have a busy restaurant that provides good jobs for, good people, and they can live their lives. I just want to, that's my long-term goal, is to make a decent living and have my colleagues and coworkers make a decent living with me, and we do good work.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for world domination. That's not my thing.
I'm happy. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say, I'm happy you said that, because, what's one thing I've been kind of struggling with this podcast. Do I go after the 10 plus unit operators, or the giant franchises in the big corporations? I'm not opposed, obviously, to talking to those people. I'm sure we can learn something about discipline and scale and whatever. There's a lot of lessons that we can pull from those big operators and utilize them on small scale to help, treat our little businesses like big businesses, so we can get the most out of it, so we can provide the most security for the people that are working for us, so we can have more comfort, maybe hire somebody to have better work-life balance. Like, I'm all for that stuff. But to your point, like, what is success? And like, what is the American definition of success? Is it more stuff? Is it bigger? Is it doing exactly what you want to do, choosing a path, having the freedom, the autonomy to wake up and do what you chose to do every day?
Sure.
Like, why isn't that success?
I think it can be both.
Yeah.
But I do think there is this pressure, and I think it's mostly outside pressure, that success is how much money do you have in your bank account? Like, how successful is your business?
Right.
And it's not always about just kind of staying the course, and it's always about evolving and changing. And I think that is hugely important, and it matters a lot. But I also think there's not enough focus on coming in every day and doing the same thing, doing it well, people enjoying it, providing value. All those things. I think sometimes that gets skirted to the side, because we're constantly constantly trying to do more, you know?
And I think what will happen is if you choose that path that you're on right now, when you put the energy into doing what you're already doing better, or like finding ways to find little efficiencies, or just to stay true to the original vision to execute a thing, the opportunity comes to you.
Yeah.
Like this space that you're in is a perfect example of the opportunity coming to you.
Sure.
Being a part of the community, working hard, providing a good product. Like if you do those things, that's when you grow, because people want to get a little piece of what you're doing, or bring what you're doing to their plaza or to their town. And like that's when investors come and developers say, I have an open space and I want to make sure I have a tenant that's going to pay rent on time.
Yeah.
Because they have a good brand.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how you attract the opportunity.
For sure. You know, and a lot of it too is like trying to lift up the people around us. Like I'm only as good as me, right?
Yeah.
But the people that I work with every day, they make me such a better person, and that is so crucial to what we do.
I love that.
You know, I'm nothing without my staff members and my colleagues. Like, you know, down in the kitchen, you know, I work with a 61-year-old woman, call her Tango. You know, her name's Tracy, and she's a rock. You know, she comes in every day and she does her job, and we have fun and we laugh, and that to me is as important or more important than, you know, making the numbers, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing to have a good time, and what are we doing to like lift each other up? It can be daunting every day, because you do look at the numbers, and like you can obsess over them, and like, is that the success that you want? But like, I'm looking right now around the restaurant, and like it's a nice thing, you know. We have like families in here, and like it's
getting busy.
Yeah,
I know. We're gonna break down the space to make room for your
it's
your
all
guests.
good. No, my crew is like, you know, interacting you know, in a genuine way with people, and
that's something I noticed when I was here setting up, is the conversations that were happening between your staff, and there was recognition. How's this going? How did that go? Like there's a dialogue, a continuing dialogue, a relationship that's here. Like I think that recognition is so important.
Yeah, 100%. We, you know, I say we have the best crew around, you know, and I mean that. Our customer service is so good, and it's genuine, and we want to know how you're doing each day, and we're going to make you food, and it's going to be delicious, but at the same time, it's about that relationship and having that conversation, and just asking how somebody's doing. Like that could turn someone's whole day around, you know?
Love that. So what about the work-life balance? How's that going in terms of goals and aspirations?
I wish you could ask my wife, Rachel. It's been hard. It's been really hard. You know, it's I focus probably too much of my time on this, and that's hard to accept. You know, fortunately, again, I'll go back to my staff. Like, I don't have to be up here at night a lot, working shifts on the line and during dinner.
They seem to be handling it pretty good.
They're amazing. Like, they don't need me. I was up here on Saturday night as a fill-in, and they were like, you know, asking me stuff to do. I'm like, no. You guys, I'm here to help, but you know your roles. You know what's going on, and I'm here to put out fires if fires need to be put out. And they crushed it. You know.
So what are you doing when you're here?
When I'm up here? Dishes.
Yeah.
Love doing dishes. It's one of my favorite things.
So why don't you feel like you can go home?
It's not that I can't go home. I go home every day. You know, I'm down in our I call it our commissary kitchen, our kitchen. You know, prepping the food. We get there at like 6 a.m. We're done by like 3 or 4 p.m. And I usually get to go home around, you know, 5:30ish. You know, 5:30. But I bring it home with me. You know, I have my computer. I have my numbers pulled up. You know, I can't let it go for some reason, and that's hard. I wish I could just.
I can relate.
You know, yeah. I wish I could.
I bring my house with me everywhere I go.
There you go. Yeah, it's a nice looking house. Like, I must say. I wish I could turn it off. You know, and I have a hard time doing that, and I don't. You know, I'm going to sound corny because I care too much. But, like, I just want to know how – I don't know. I want to know how well we did, I guess. Yeah. But That drives that. It's like that outside force of success. It's like, oh, how good were the numbers today?
Well, it's that game of business that you were obsessed with when you were trying to do things faster. Like, did we do better today than yesterday? Did we do better this week than last week? Did we do better this month than last month? Did we do better this month versus the year before this month?
Yeah, and it's so silly because it's all an ebb and flow. It's like you have a good week, you have a bad week, and that's the industry. Yeah. Quite frankly, and you need to let it. Yeah, you just need to let it go sometimes.
In terms. Well, before we move away from your story and to talk more holistically about the industry, anything we haven't discussed that you think is unique to your story, advice, like perspective that you can share?
Sure. I think, not to be afraid of embracing like new ideas. Like I said, when we were early in the pandemic, we were too stupid to like not say no to things or not be like, listen to this trend. Be like, I listened to a lot of Dave Chang's podcasts early in the pandemic. I haven't listened to it recently, but
too busy listening to Restaurant Unstoppable.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Nice plug. I like that.
What did he say?
He was just really insightful. He was like during those times, it was all about how we try to like cultivate innovation and change in the industry, and we took a lot of that to heart, like with online ordering. That was a newer concept, newish concept for restaurants. Embracing full takeout. Like a lot of restaurants had struggled with that idea, or just weren't built for it.
Yeah, weren't prepared technologically. Yeah.
Because we were so takeout heavy early on, we instituted a takeout materials fee. We started a fee-based system for our takeout materials, which helped cover our costs at the time. But we still have it today because we are still very heavily takeout oriented, and a lot of our food gets made out. We use 100% compostable.
What are you using for that, by the way? Who's your brand for the compostable packaging?
World Centric.
Okay.
I think they're a company based out of China.
Okay.
But we've used them since day one, and it's kind of ubiquitous. Like with our whole line of products is world centric, and I'm hesitant to change it because it's been so successful for us.
Yeah, I'm looking for a brand to work with that's like, I'm trying to get better about people referencing different products that they're using other than the food and stuff.
Yeah, World Centric they have a great line of stuff. Eco is another brand, but we haven't used their products. So yeah, silly stuff like that, but we weren't afraid to try it, and then we just kept it, and it helped our business.
The packaging's not cheap.
No, packaging is not cheap. And, recently we were a part of a pilot program with a local nonprofit called Reusable Seacoast, who introduced us to a group out of California called Foodware to Go. And we offer reusable takeout containers. It's a program you can sign up through Foodware. It takes us, directs you to our website and our app, and you can select, a reusable container, sign it out with a QR code, and then when you're done with it, it's all like an honor-based system that if you don't return it, you will get charged for it eventually. But you return it, you scan your QR code, and
do they manage all that for you?
They do manage
That's awesome.
That for us, yeah.
And that's called World Foodware to Go.
Foodware to Go is the app, and I can show you one of their containers after we're done talking. But
based out of California? They're
based out of California. The local group was started by some people around here called Reusable Seacoast. And that pilot program has ended. It was just 4 restaurants to begin with. It was us, HiFi, Juniper Kitchen across town, Siri Street Bakery, and Ohana. Since the pilot program ended, we're continuing on with it and paying up a subscription fee, as is Juniper Kitchen and Ohana. So,
and that comes out the cost of the guest that wants to reuse.
No, we're paying that subscription fee on our own to continue the program because we believe in it so much.
Yeah, how much does it cost?
It's not. It's very cheap. It's like $75 a month or something like that.
To be able to use their services to manage the takeout containers.
Yes, and we have like a stack of stainless steel containers with silicone lids.
Do you think that being public about that helps drive business here because people want to support that sustainable movement?
I think absolutely. Yeah, I think some of that. It's part of our. It's part of our core brand and core beliefs. Like we wanted to become part of that pilot program because we believe so strongly in trying to reduce waste.
Yeah,
like,
I'm definitely reaching out to those companies. I want to learn more.
For sure. Yeah, foodware. Oh my gosh, what is this thing?
So you said world-centric, eco, and foodware.
Yeah, world-centric is they're kind of a bigger company I believe out of China, and foodware to go is out of California.
Eco is local, isn't it? I want to say is that
Eco,
like New Hampshire or Seabrook or something.
Eco is definitely on the east coast of the United States, to my knowledge. But yeah, we really believe strongly in trying to reduce waste and reduce the amount of garbage we're throwing away. Whether it be with packaging, whether it be with food, we have little to no food waste here, which is really nice. So yeah, all those things kind of congeal together, and the environment is important to us. You got to love your mother, and I don't think we're. It's frustrating to see a lot of the big companies just like not care about. I'm talking like big fast food restaurant chains or fast casual restaurant chains, and it's a little demoralizing to try to like know that it has to be a small independent restaurant to want to like try to make that little bit of a difference to move the needle, I guess. And it's just like,
well, that's kind of one of the things I want to pivot the conversation to on a more regular basis is like I started this podcast to go to successful independent restaurant owners to kind of be an inspirational, motivational podcast. The more successful, quote unquote, independents I spoke to, i.e. the companies that were getting the awards and getting the recognition of being the best spot in town, or at least good like online reviews, even they were struggling to be profitable. So I was like, well, maybe I need to go to the bigger restaurant groups, like the multi-unit operators. Even they were struggling to be profitable. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to go to the small corporations and the medium-sized corporations, like the Let Us Entertain Yous of the world. They have a lot figured out. And then like, the franchises and like the larger scale corporations. But we can learn a lot from them. But at the same time, when you scale to like 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 units, you lose a lot of the special stuff. The team, the relationships, behind every great restaurant's a great person, and they're lifting up. Like you said, your employees lift you up, but you lift them up. And I think the level of give and F with like the consumer and the person behind the counter, like you tend to lose that as you scale. I've found. Because you can't have a touch on all those relationships. You can't maintain standards like in terms of like relationships. Maybe standards around numbers and like costs, but relationships. What's going through your mind as I say this?
I agree with you 100%. It's for me that's like what small restaurants are built upon is the relationships, the touch. Like reaching out to another restaurant in your community. Collaborations, right? Even collaborations outside of the restaurant world with nonprofits and other entities. It's like, yeah, that just doesn't, I guess it happens on a much larger scale potentially with these bigger restaurants.
Yeah, but I think yes, to a degree,
it's not as.
It has to happen on Main Street, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we can't lose the main streets of the world.
Sure. I
think we lost sight of what the restaurant industry is. It's about creating space for people to come together. Yeah, food's a part of it, but really it's about connecting people.
Yeah, 100%.
So like we can't lose that. And I think one thing I want to do with this podcast is to teach people, to get restaurant owners open to talk to other restaurant owners and collaborate and choose to go further together. Because if we keep on competing against the people down the street, then we're all going to go out of business.
Yeah.
So like, how do we share that information? How do we lift each other up?
That is a tough question. I'm gonna reference the pandemic again because I think a lot of good came out of that for restaurants because we were all trying to help each other out and try, collaborating and sharing information, or, you need a staff member today, like, yeah, this so-and-so is available. I think that's happened less as we've come out of that, because we're all trying to compete for, like the same dollars. And we don't have that like nurturing, I guess, restaurant on restaurant community. I would say that for me, the best example of that is like Kittery Fourside.
Okay.
Where the Black Birch is located in Andrew. I feel like that whole downtown area is like, they're all just hugging each other,
Yeah.
like, let's do this big block party. Let's get together. And I think it's,
all ships rise with the tide.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's an amazing thing to watch. And I think it's a testament to the people who obviously run all those different institutions. And I wish there was more of it elsewhere around the area, around the seacoast. I think Portland has a good food scene like that, where people are, helping each other out and collaborating, and like it becomes a scene, right?
Yeah.
But with that scene, comes keeping the main street at like the mom and pop aspect of things, like the wholesomeness alive, and not trying to be the coolest kid in the room.
Right.
That's a hard thing to kind of like keep going, because I think, once you do create these communities and these cool foodie centers, like it. I'm losing my train of thought here. Probably
Is it?
from the time,
I can try to make some suggestions, but I think once the ego gets involved, once the media gets a hold of it, once the marketing, like
sure,
the I don't know. Like, I think people like to take things, and I don't want to make assumptions though. Is that what you're?
I think so. Yeah. It pushes a lot of like the regular institutions out, I guess. When it's all about trying to create this this vibe, this cool vibe, and I think it's like social media driven, a lot of it, and
it's more about pushing the trends and the digital presence than the actual the original social platform, the dining room floor.
Yeah, and it all looks so easy.
Right.
And it's not.
Right.
It's a pain in the ass most of the time. It's really hard to make things consistently well. I think that's one of the hardest things in our industry, is to do it every day and do it as good or as equal, as the best product you can produce. And so, social media has a way of distorting that. It's like, I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't think business owners should have to be content creators all the time.
Right. Do you see that Seinfeld meme where like Jerry's sitting there like talking to who's the bald short guy? Costanza.
Costanza, yes.
Yeah, George, and he's just like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" Like it's like restaurant owners trying to figure out why they have to post every day on social media. I can't remember the exact
sure.
one,
Yeah,
but it's funny. But it's true. I mean, it's like it's hard enough, and it's hard enough to do all the things before the having to be a media company on top of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes I get frustrated because it's like, I think there's a level of truth that like marketing is necessary. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying like marketing. I like to say often that marketing is the bane of human existence, and I believe that. But I'm not saying that we don't need to market or promote ourselves. But when marketing, telling people how amazing you are, it becomes more important than being amazing. Mm-hmm. There's a problem there.
Yeah.
Where now, if you are really good at marketing and you suck at everything else, you can still do a good job. But I don't think that is making society better.
Yeah. Yeah. As much effort as it goes into taking a beautiful photo of a piece of food, it's more important what that piece of food tastes like.
Right. And does it look like that when the cameras are off?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah. It's like, it's hard to duplicate that perfection, and I don't think it's perfection is totally worth pursuing, but I don't think it's the end all be all of working in restaurants, unless you're working at the finest establishments, like 11 Madison Park, like a Michelin star, like that's a different sort of conversation. But for small restaurants like us, I think just trying to present something approachable that doesn't affect like how you feel in front of other people, like I'm not eating here because I'm trying to look cool. Maybe I am, but I'm like, that's not my goal. I'm here to like try to eat what is some of the best food in the area, you know, wherever that happens to be. And for some people it's different. You want to take a picture of every piece of food and present it in its most perfect light, but give me something messy, man, that I get all over my face and just like that's
where I'm at.
Just enjoying yourself and enjoying what the experience is supposed to be.
Brett, I've really enjoyed this conversation. We're going to start to wrap it up.
Sure.
But before we do, anything we haven't discussed that you want to get out, now's the time.
I think the biggest thing is that this shit's hard. Yeah. Like, it's not easy. And I to dovetail off of what we were just talking about, it's not perfect. In fact, we're just like a big group of misfits, we come together and we make this like beautiful thing.
That's why I love the restaurant industry. It's the people.
Yeah. It's there. I've been so fortunate to be surrounded by like some truly amazing and incredibly talented folks, but I've also been surrounded by some incredibly funny people and just like odd ducks. Like, I'm like, how are we getting along? And I think it's so truly unique to this industry. But it's still hard, managing people and being a part of that odd group is one of the toughest challenges, because, I think it's hard to get people to understand that. It's just like, we're just here just doing our thing, and, hopefully you like it. Hopefully the industry changes for the better and it recognizes like the hard work of the people coming into it. It's not all about like the chefs and the top dogs,
the vanity metrics.
It's just it's about your newest employee, feeling worth, and feeling happy about what they're doing, and making them feel like they found their place. And that's what, I want to try to do here. We try to do that here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, like, we're like this odd family, We're
I love it, man.
A bunch of goofballs just doing our thing.
I got some questions for you to wrap it up.
Sure.
First, I'm going to take a photo because I forgot to do it earlier.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's the profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
The first question I have for you is, I think I would have these memorized by now. What is one thing about your business, a value, a process, a system that makes you uncommon and truly unstoppable?
Oh, my goodness. I think our care for the world around us, our focus on the environment. Half of our menu is vegetarian. We use all compostable materials. We have our reusable program. We've recently introduced a product that I believe greatly in. It's called Fable. We use it for our mushroom chorizo, and it's the first thing we've ever put on our menu that we don't make from scratch in house. But it's a sustainable, it's made from mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, and it's a very sustainable product. And it's just finding little things like that here and there that you can kind of make a difference in the world around you and what you're trying to do.
Right. I mean, the mission statement is to change the world by inspiring and empowering the restaurant industry. And I think that the restaurant industry, if the world changes, the restaurant industry is going to be at the leading edge of that because of people like you and just people who are just filled with values, and I think change comes from the inside out, and it has to come from like the core of communities. And I think restaurants are at the core of all communities. So if restaurants start changing, they influence consumers, and I think that's what creates change. So I love that you're doing that. Thank you. The mission statement is, again, to change the world by inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. And I think we're going to help transform the industry by also making an example of how each individual has transformed themselves. So how have you personally transformed? How are you a better man today versus the man you were when you got into this industry?
Sure. Patience, man. I have a far greater deal of patience. I entered this business as like a young, angry, hungry individual just looking to find my way, and I think I've come to it now where I'm more about the relationships, and obviously continuing to provide an amazing product, but it's about getting to know people, and I don't think I did a great job of that when I first came into the business. I was more of just like, this is a job to me, and now it's more of how can we do better in our community, and how can we lift our people up and give them, opportunities and stuff like that.
I love it.
Yeah, it's not coming out of me as eloquently as I had hoped, but
no, man, we're picking it up. It's good stuff. I don't want to cut you short, though.
No, you're good. So yeah, I don't know. I've definitely learned to not wear it as, I guess, personally as I used to.
Got it. This is the last question before we have you call somebody out. What if you got the news? You'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for your legacy and the good of humanity. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Oh man, that is
loaded. It's cheesy. I embrace it.
Question. I don't know, man. Golden rule: do unto others as you hope to be done upon. I suppose.
1.
Just eat voraciously. Eat
2.
good food. And try to laugh every day.
I love it, dude. This has been a lot of fun. So I found you because somebody called you out in your community to be a guest on the show. Who do you respect and admire in the industry? Somebody who's doing it right, who's putting out a good product, who is taking care of their staff, who is making money while doing it. I think it's not about the money, but it's a critical part of the business. Who's that? Who would you listen to if they were a guest on the show?
The first person that comes to mind would probably be Deb Simmons from Cake Vegan Bakery. We do a lot of work with her, actually, and not just shouting her out because we sell her desserts in our drink case over there.
That's Cake Vegan Bakery?
Cake, yes. Cake.Vegan Bakery. And Deb Simmons is the owner, proprietor, sole employee. She is a one-woman wrecking crew of sweet treats. Yeah, man, she's a rock star. She does it all by herself. She makes incredible desserts, all vegan. I think she's, to my knowledge, the only vegan bakery on the seacoast exclusively. And yeah, man, she's just one of the hardest working gals I've ever met. She's a rad individual.
Deb, look out! I'm coming after you. And I'd love to get Dave on the show too, if you can make that happen, if make an introduction. I don't know if you have.
Oh, Pelletier, yeah. I can track down. I can track down his info.
Let's make that happen.
I got some people who can get it.
I've been trying to share the Margarita story for some time now, so yeah, I would love to get Dave on the show.
He's a funny guy to talk to, man. Yeah. He's full of insight.
And if we enjoyed today's conversation, maybe we have questions about how you're doing things. Maybe we want to follow up. Maybe we want to come work for you. What's the best way to work or to connect?
To connect to us, just stop by. Come on in through the door.
Social handles.
Social handles. HiFi BURRITOS at gmail.com is a good way to get a hold of us.
We're in Dover, New Hampshire.
Yeah, we're in Dover, New Hampshire. Yeah, and then HiFi BURRITOS is our Instagram handle. But yeah, just swing on through.
Yep. We'll link to any product or service mentioned on today's show, how to connect with Brett in the show notes. Just scroll down in the notes. We'll have all those links there. And this is where I say, Brett, thank you so much, my man. I literally cannot do what I do without people like you being willing to sit down with me for 2 hours to share your story, to share your knowledge, your perspective, your values. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your interest in us because it means the world. It really does.
Thank you. Pleasure's
awesome.
mine. Cheers.